I'm gonna eventually write a book about my experiences in documentary filmmaking and news, and it's gonna be called Tales from the Ass End of History. And it's gonna include all the bits that get cut out of all the other stories. And you're always cutting out something for time or for clarity. And sometimes you cut because the facts don't jibe with the conventional wisdom. They don't fit the mythology that we currently agree on as truth. It's kind of like the lesson at the end of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. You know, when the facts conflict with the legend, print the legend. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I was working for the United States Secret Service. We were doing a training video. And the Secret Service has an armory that they're very proud of. They say it contains at least one of every single commercially produced firearm ever made. They also have a collection of one-of-a-kind, handmade, unique firearms, like a walking cane that shoots bullets. And they have a collection of guns of historical or cultural significance. And that's where somebody handed me a gold-plated Colt 45 handgun whose previous owners had been Richard Nixon and Elvis Presley. Now, the meeting between Nixon and Elvis is legendary in both senses of the word. It's legendary because it's a very famous event. In fact, the photo of them shaking hands is the single most popular image in our national archives. If you go to the gift store, you can get it on a t-shirt, on a coffee mug, on a keychain, anything. But it's also legendary in the sense that almost everything we know about that meeting is bullshit. The legend has it that Elvis was so distraught over the flood of illegal drugs into this country that he offered his services as drug enforcement agent at large to President Nixon, so that Elvis Presley, arguably the most famous man on the planet at the time, could go undercover in the war on drugs. Now, the official story lasted until Elvis died, and all the tell-all books came out, and we found out that what really happened was Elvis had a thing for guns and badges, and what Elvis really wanted was a DEA badge so he could take his guns wherever he wanted to take them, like on airplanes. So the part of the story that doesn't get told or gets told wrong, according to the Secret Service, is that Elvis went to the White House to meet Nixon carrying this gold-plated Colt 45. Much to the consternation of the Secret Service, who wouldn't let him into the White House with the gun. And this pissed Elvis off because that's exactly why he was going to the White House, so he could get a badge that would let him take his guns anywhere. Now, fortunately, cooler heads prevailed. A member of Elvis's entourage spoke up and said, "Oh, no. That gun's a gift for President Nixon." So the Secret Service allowed him to take the gun into the White House after they had unloaded it. Elvis gave the gun to Nixon. Nixon turned it over to the Secret Service, and it was put in the armory, where it received luxurious spa treatment for a gun. The caretakers of the armory are nothing if not world-class gun fetishists. So this gun was oiled and cleaned and tested and measured on a regular basis. And it stayed there until Nixon resigned in 1974. Now here's where I make the tenuous connection to tonight's theme. After Nixon resigned, all of the gifts he had been given as president were packed up and sent off to their new beginning at La Casa Pacifica, Nixon's beachfront estate in San Clemente, California. And that's where the gun stayed until Nixon died in 1994. At that point, his heirs decided they were going to send the gun back to the Secret Service to be put in the armory. Now, according to the Secret Service, and they have maintenance logs to back this up, when the gun left their custody, it was in near mint condition. When it returned to them, it was scratched, dented, and it had been fired so many times that the firing pin had been worn almost completely away. So what does this mean? I don't know. But the image of Nixon in retirement has always been Richard Nixon walking around La Casa Pacifica in his suit and tie, brooding over the events that led to his disgrace and his eventual resignation. I think with this new information, it's quite possible to imagine an angry, bitter Dick Nixon sitting on the beach in maybe like a pair of board shorts and a t-shirt and a big floppy Gilligan hat, imagining the faces of Woodward and Bernstein and Martha Mitchell and John Dean on the side of soup cans and shooting the shit out of them with Elvis's gun. Thanks. Looking for a book. Thanks.